Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Justice League Unlimited issue 7 by Mark Waid, Travis Moore and Tamara Bonvillain. We Are Yesterday continues this issue as Gorilla Grodd and the Legion of Doom assault the Justice League Watchtower, with Grodd finding out that he is having quite a bit of fun blasting all of the heroes through time. One of my many problems with the last installment was the total lack of Grodd for some reason. So I'm glad Waid is opening this issue by saying that he's back, he's here at the forefront, and we're actually following him through this part of the story. Mr. Terrific figures Airwave gave them access to the Watchtower, but it's too late as they are blasted by the time guns the Legion have, sending the heroes spiraling through time. The League are all dealt with only Elongated Man being the last holdout for some reason, which is really quite funny and quite cool. I like that Ralph was the last one standing. Grodd does a little bit of explaining on why he's doing all of this, why the Legion disguise themselves as Inferno, and basically reiterating a lot of the stuff we got in the previous couple of issues. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get anything really new revealed here. No extension of Grodd's plans or anything like that, just more of the same heroes have power but they don't use it so the villains are going to take it type stuff. Grodd says that the time guns are used to blast the heroes out into the timeline, being many are too hard to kill, so instead he just wants them to watch in agony from throughout time with no way to come back and no way of knowing where they actually were blasted to. As Ralph is subjected to Grodd's monologues, he uses his powers to stretch his arm to grab an energy weapon from the armory, but Luthor blasts it to bits before he can use it, leaving Elongated Man to get tortured by the rest of the Legion. His limbs stretched and snapped. It's a pretty brutal sequence, and how nonchalant the villains are about it is great too. They have bigger fish to fry, but they also want to have a little bit of fun with these heroes and actually make them hurt. Lex is concerned that they haven't seen Superman and Batman, and Grodd assures them that they'll be dealt with, sending Black Manta, Sinestro, Scarecrow, and some other villains out to deal with them, as Luthor, Bizarro, Captain Cold, and Pythoness go with him. So this kind of alleviates a lot of those problems that I had with Grodd not appearing in the last issue, because this issue and that last issue take place at the exact same time. Grodd could have still appeared, even if it was just for like a page or a panel or two, but I'm glad that Waid did reference it here and made it known that like Grodd is sending these guys out to deal with these heroes while he's got the bigger fish to fry. Superman, Batman, and Robin find themselves in 14,000 BCE Arabia, unable to even leave the desert they are in thanks to the time wall the Legion have put up. The rest of the League are also spread out throughout time, the Flash and Green Arrow stuck in the Wild West, and Mr. Terrific, Supergirl, and Martian Manhunter in the far future on Jupiter, where they fight an elemental being who believes them to be Martian saboteurs. Some of the heroes believe this is how it's going to end, since they have no way to get back home and they are stuck there. But soon they begin all hearing a familiar voice in a wave of radio static. While I'm glad the event isn't being drowned out by countless tie-ins like DC events of old, I can't help but wonder why we never actually got even just one anthology special of the different little League teams here that we see in this book throughout time. You could have done like one little story for each of the team in like an anthology series. That's prime tie-in material, and it is really strange that this book never had actually any tie-ins, especially because every DC event seems to get tie-ins at some point one way or another. You know, look back just a couple of years at the Night Terrors event and that had something like 20 odd tie-ins, and now we don't even get any, which is kind of a good thing. Like there was a point there where it was getting ridiculous the amount of tie-ins events were having, but this event like kind of needs some tie-ins because there's that prime material there of all of these teams being split up in different eras. That's what tie-ins usually are used for. So it's odd we're not just getting even one. Back on the Justice League Watchtower, Captain Cold asks Grodd about Pythoness, but all Grodd will tell him is that the woman has no present-day counterpart, being that she died young. So this gives them the element of surprise over the heroes, since they will never be expecting her. Another surprise soon happens as out of thin air, a disembodied Bizarro arm appears. Grodd knows this means they are close as they soon arrive at the Omega Rift, the tear in reality and time that was left over from when Darkseid died on the Watchtower during the All-In special. And it was this rift that, thanks to Airwave's tachyon abilities, allowed Grodd to venture into the past and meet with his past self. Bizarro, ever the idiot, reaches into the rift and ends up getting his arm cut off, which we saw appear just before in the past. I'm liking how Wade is bringing it all back round to Darkseid stuff Williamson and the others set up during DC All In. It's just tying all of these stories together in a big fun tapestry, and I like the idea that Grodd is trying to use Darkseid's power to rule over the world. And again, that's another thing I've really liked about Grodd, is that he has access to all this power that could literally like shape the universe, and all he wants to do is rule Earth. It's narrow-minded for the villain, but like that's the point. Like he's doing things way above his station, and I like that Wade keeps hitting that home, that he wants to take over the world for Gorilla Kind, but he could do so much more. Grodd explains that Darkseid's power is within the Rift, and he plans on taking it for the Legion. Sinestro and Black Manta soon return and reveal that Scarecrow was captured, but they were able to deal with the rest of the heroes. As I said before, this kind of confirms that this takes place during the events of the last World's Finest issue. However, there is some more problems there, as Black Manta appears, and he wasn't in that issue at all, but like he's the one saying they dealt with the heroes. Joker mentions they fought sideways, and they liked hearing him scream. You know, things we didn't see in that issue. And again, this kind of feels like, oh, was this meant to be a tie-in? Was this like some other tie-in where they deal with the other side of the World's Finest and all the other heroes outside of Batman and Superman? But it's something we never get to see, so I don't know why it was kind of brought attention to something we never even seen, and why Black Manta is saying, unless when Sinestro could have just said all of this. It was like a bit of a continuity error, which is strange itself, since Wade has been really good at keeping it all flowing timeline-wise and keeping everything sort of match up. Grodd shows the team a rock, revealing it's the last fragment of Darkseid's homeworld Apocalypse, and it's the only thing they can siphon the energy from the rift into and have it survive. And once it's done, they will all become gods. The heroes meanwhile find out the voice contacting them belongs to Airwave, who survived being blasted by Grodd and his time gun. The heroes of course don't trust him, thinking the kid is still working for Grodd, but he explains that Grodd tricked him into thinking the League was just out to gain power over the Earth. I gotta say, his apology and exploration, the way it's written and the way it's kind of presented, it feels really disingenuous. Like, if he were to say that to me, I probably still would not believe him, especially after what he did. I would still think, oh, this is just a trick, and Grodd's just kind of torturing us now that he's got us stuck in time. Thanks to talking with the heroes, Airwave's power has also linked the heroes across time, and it allows them to communicate with each other, and he can tell them what Grodd did to him, but he doesn't remember what happened after he got shot by Grodd, only that he can now see all of the heroes across time and space. The Atom realizes that the time guns the Legion are using are being powered by Airwave and his tachyon abilities, as they have weaponized his energy in some way. That's a neat use of the character Airwave, weaponizing him against the League, and I theorize that he would come back in the third act of this event in some capacity, and it looks like that's going to be the case here. I imagine he's going to be the one to save the League, and then that'll kind of clear his book in their eyes a little bit, or at least in some of the heroes' eyes, and maybe he'll be allowed to join the League again. Back at the Watchtower, the absolutely most obvious thing is happening as Lex betrays the Legion, wanting all of Darkseid's power for himself. Grodd, however, had planned for this, wounding Lex greatly by blasting half his face off, as he reveals that the rock he just told them about was a very obvious bit of bait, and he doesn't need it at all, since all he needs is a worthy subject. Grodd begins siphoning the rift's energy into his body, as Airwave figures if his powers were used to send the League away, he can use them to bring them back. Airwave begins to focus his power, but he finds he still can't reach all of the League. But thanks to Cyborg, Black Lightning, Superman and Stargirl, all blasting them with their powers from across time, he is able to boost his own power, allowing him to amplify them across time and space. While I appreciate Wade is having fun and making the event kind of approachable and, easy to read and easy to follow, I do think there are some things that need a proper explanation, like how does the heroes all blasting Airwave with their own energy powers amplify his, like how does that work? It's just kind of glossed over here, and maybe I'm just being too nitpicky about it. I'm just applying a bit more logic than what needs to be in a comic book with superheroes. But an idea of how the mechanics of this work would have been great. I would have liked some sort of breakdown of how Airwave's, radio powers are able to like reach across time and space. As Airwave taps into the other heroes, Grodd finds he's still linked with Airwave, which causes the boy to realize that he is going after the Darkseid energy and also become infected by it, allowing him to see the collapse of time that will be caused if Grodd gets this power. Airwave is consumed by the explosion of power as Grodd, now with a red Omega symbol burned into his forehead, emerges from the rift. Before he can kill the Legion as their usefulness has run out, Airwave reappears, this time with a Justice League Unlimited made up of various heroes from around the multiverse and time and space, ready to stop Grodd from unleashing chaos onto the Earth and multiverse. This is a fun little team Airwave has put together here. We, got Batman Beyond, Jonah Hex, Arbin Sur, the Aquaman from the 90s where he's got the hook hand, just some really fun, neat little teams. And we know we're actually getting some more because we've seen previews from the final issue and there's definitely more heroes that are going to be on this team. But here it's just a neat little group of heroes, and I like that it's kind of heroes that you wouldn't expect. There is a Batman, and there's two Batman and a Robin, but it's also like Jonah Hex is there. That's pretty damn cool. Again though, this feels like it would have been prime tie-in material as well. Like Airwave gets blasted by the Omega Rift back through time or something, and he's got to spend, 1 or 2 or 3 issues recruiting a team to return to the present and face Grodd, and this is like the team he was able to assemble. Just feels like we're leaving so much decent material on the table here in terms of tie-ins. Like, this is, as I said before, prime stuff for tie-ins because it's all like multiverse and time travel stories. But on the flip side of that coin, it's actually why I've kind of enjoyed it, that it's not doing those usual event or time travel story tropes of tie-ins or alternate world explorations. It's kind of staying very focused on just the Justice League in the Watchtower with the Legion of Doom. It's, straying away from things we've seen millions of times before. Justice League Unlimited issue 7 brought us right up to the finale of the We Are Yesterday event series, but things are starting to feel a little rocky to me. Mark Waid is doing a good job keeping this book and the world's finest light and fun aesthetic moving forward, but it feels like it's at the expense of the plot, which has huge chunks that are just kind of waved away or never really fleshed out and explained more than I would like them to. Specifically when it relates to Airwave, a lot of his stuff is just glossed over, and he can just do all this stuff because the plot wants him to. I do like how he is approaching the time travel aspect of the story though, and not falling into the tropes associated with those stories that many writers do, but the cracks are beginning to show as we inch closer to the end of the event next month. I'm going to give this issue a 6.5 out of 10.